Hi folks, after a very long wait, I'm finally ready to give you a demonstration on the latest version of my string cutter. The first thing to know is it's very easy to set up. Have brackets mounted on a bench like a lot of other people are using too. I did something different from what most people do. For 30 years I used one of Frank Hansen's cutters, and I cut good string with it, and a lot of other people do too. But I always felt that it could be improved on. One of the things that I felt it needed improvement was to break it up into two units so that the one function, that is a 90-degree function as opposed to the 45-degree function, didn't interfere with the other. And I didn't like those big collars in the way of my hands. So I took a different approach from what everybody else is doing. First thing, you have to install a blade. Now, when I was using the Hansen cutter for many years, I found that by breaking a blade in half, I could use it to split string with. So I thought, well, I should design one that you didn't have to break a blade in half. You could use a whole Stanley blade for it. And the fact that the blade is mounted in front of the securing bolt meant that I can bring the edge right in line with my guide, make it a lot easier to control for splitting and other functions like that. So there's the 90-degree cutter, and here's the 45-degree cutter. And in the 90-degree cutter, you can use the heavy Stanley blades, or you can use like the little chick injector style blades, which I prefer for all of my beveling. And if you're beveling something really soft like kangaroo, you can angle your blade, the top of it, forward, and that helps to hold it down and cut more accurately in those soft materials. That's the basic setup right there. I'm just starting off, tapering a little off the tail end of it, and then I'll reverse it. I think that's maybe a dull spot on my blade too. Ah, yes, big difference.
So you just raised the blade up a little bit?
Yeah, I got a fresh place on it. I didn't realize I'd used the middle of that blade some already, and it's a little more like it. Notice how close I can get my fingers to the blade and the guide bar to control that string, and I don't have anything bumping up against my hand. And I thought that was a big improvement over other string cutters I'd used before. Good. Now I'm going to set up let's test that and see if the Now, to split string, all we do is adjust it for the thickness that we want the string to be, and then tip our string up on edge. And for many years, I used I'm going to tighten that just a hair more. I used a saddle maker's leather splitter to split my rawhide string, and you have to be very careful. Only take a little thin pass with a saddle maker splitter because you're pulling around a 1-inch diameter drum instead of this narrow guide here that's just a little over 1/8 of an inch. And because I can bend it around that, you see I'm almost pulling at a 45-degree angle. The angle of incidence equals the angle of deflection, and therefore I can take a deeper bite, safely cut my string. I've taken one of these just to prove a point, and took an absolutely bone dry string and took a 60% cut off of it in one pass. Therefore, I never use more than 2 passes to split a string to the thickness I need, and 90 to 95% of the time I only do it in one pass. Use the beveler. Most of the time I just bevel the top edges, but on heavier hackamore strings and such I often bevel the back edge as well. There are actually 2 ways to bevel on this machine. One is to tip it up on edge, which is when I do the way I do most of my beveling. That's a little too deep a bite. I'll do most of my beveling with that up on edge, because once I get it set up, it gives me more control this way. But if I were beveling tapered string like whip strings, I make a lot of whips out of horsehide, and the taper is in the thickness rather than in the width. And so I'm cutting a parallel string and beveling the edges, and to do that I'll lay it grain side down instead of stood up on edge like this, and it works just fine either way. So it's a very versatile machine in that respect, that you can either bevel up on edge like this or lay down flat. I really like the fact that I can get my hands in close to the blade and the guide and not get cramped before I'm finished. Good idea not to stand on your string.